How a single failure sparked a reinvention. Failure has a way of breaking through our illusions. It disrupts certainty, exposes limitations, and forces a kind of honesty we spend years avoiding. But sometimes failure doesn't end a story. It begins one. And for a person who once believed their path was solid, a single unexpected setback became the spark that transformed everything. In our world, success is celebrated loudly, while failure hides in shadows. We avoid discussing it, fearing what it might reveal about us. Yet some of the most remarkable reinventions in history begin with a moment that feels like collapse. Today, as careers shift faster than ever, understanding this truth matters more than we realize. Their story began with confidence. They were good at what they did, trusted, respected, steady. Every step in their career had followed the familiar rhythm: work hard, improve, advance. They believed the next milestone was right within reach. But life rarely unfolds exactly as planned. When the failure hit, it felt sudden and unforgiving. A project collapsed, a decision backfired, an opportunity slipped away. To others, it may have looked like a setback. To them, it felt like the unraveling of years of effort. Doubt rushed in quickly, clouding everything they had once felt sure of. How could something they worked so hard for crumble so easily? In the days that followed, they carried a quiet heaviness. They questioned their skills, their judgment, their future. Failure had shaken more than their confidence. It had shaken their identity. They found themselves replaying the moment again and again, searching for the point where everything went wrong. But beneath the disappointment, something else was beginning to stir. A restlessness, a flicker of curiosity, a sense, faint but persistent, that the failure might not be an ending after all. In the weeks that followed, the failure lingered like a shadow they couldn't quite outrun. It colored their thoughts, softened their confidence, and made even simple tasks feel heavier than before. They carried the weight of it quietly, convincing themselves they needed to push through, to recover, to prove they were still capable. But beneath the effort to return to normal, something deeper was shifting. They began noticing cracks in the foundation of the life they had built. Not cracks caused by the failure itself, but ones that had been there long before, hidden by momentum, routine, and the comfort of believing they were on the right path. The failure simply revealed what they had ignored. They were no longer evolving. They were maintaining. And maintenance had replaced growth without them realizing it. This realization unsettled them. It forced them to consider questions they had never dared to face. Had they outgrown their role? Had they been chasing goals that no longer reflected their true ambition? Was a failure a consequence of misalignment rather than ability? These questions weren't easy. They stirred discomfort, regret, and a fear confronting truths that had waited in the background for years. But the more they examined the failure, the more they saw something unexpected. It had created space they had never allowed themselves to explore. Without the illusion of certainty, they noticed sparks of curiosity in places they had overlooked. New ideas resonated. Different paths seemed less intimidating. They found themselves reading, learning, wondering, imagining futures that once felt distant or unrealistic. One moment crystallized this shift. During conversation, someone casually mentioned an opportunity in a field they had never considered. In the past, they would have dismissed it immediately, but this time, something clicked. The idea felt strangely familiar, as if it matched a part of themselves they had long ignored. The failure had cracked something open, and through that opening, new possibilities were beginning to pour in. It wasn't clarity. Not yet, but it was momentum. The early pull of reinvention taking shape in a mind finally willing to question the path it had followed for so long. Momentum brought conflict. The same failure that opened new possibilities also stirred fear each time they considered acting on them. Reinvention sounded promising, even exciting, but it demanded vulnerability. It meant letting go of identities they had spent years building. It meant risking another mistake. And after being shaken so deeply, the thought of failing again felt almost unbearable. They found themselves standing between two forces. One pulled them towards safety, toward rebuilding the life they had before. restoring what was lost, returned to a place where expectations were clear and risks were minimal. The other pulled them toward the unknown, a path without guarantees but filled with a kind of energy they hadn't felt in years. The tension between these forces shaped their days, coloring every decision with hesitation. As time passed, the internal struggle grew sharper. Routine tasks reminded them of the person they used to be. New ideas reminded them of the person they could become. They felt caught between versions of themselves, unsure which one held the truth. This emotional tug-of-war intensified late at night, when the world was quiet enough for their doubts to speak without interruption. The breaking point came unexpectedly. They were reviewing a project similar to the one that had failed, trying to rebuild their confidence. But instead of reassurance, they felt a surprising sense of detachment. The work no longer stirred passion. The goals no longer inspired focus. The failure hadn't taken their drive away. It had redirected it. This startled them. It meant the failure was not a sign of inadequacy, but a signal that they were meant to grow beyond the boundaries of their old role. It meant the discomfort they felt was not a warning. It was a calling, a push toward a future they had ignored for too long. With this realization, the conflict intensified one last time. Fear surged, reminding them of everything they could lose. But another feeling rose with it, stronger, steadier, impossible to silence. A desire to build something new. A desire to rise from the failure not by returning to who they were, but by becoming who they had the potential to be. And in that moment of clarity, the path ahead finally began to reveal itself. They understood then that the failure had not broken them. It had woken them. It stripped away the illusion of certainty and revealed a truth they had long avoided. Growth demands disruption. Reinvention requires leaving behind what once felt secure. And the future they wanted would not come from rebuilding the past, but from stepping into the unknown with intention. So they began again, slowly at first, testing the edges of new possibilities. They reached out to people doing the kind of work that excited them. They learned skills they had once dismissed as irrelevant. They explored roles that aligned not with who they had been, but with who they were becoming. Each step felt uncertain, but also undeniably right. The turning point came when they accepted an opportunity that looked nothing like their old career. It was challenging, unpredictable, demanding, but it lit a fire within them that had gone dim years before. They found themselves energized by the struggle, motivated by the learning, inspired by the creativity the new role required. The failure that once felt like an ending had become the catalyst for a life that finally felt alive. As they grew into this new chapter, something else became clear. Reinvention is not a single moment. It is a choice repeated again and again. A decision to keep evolving, to keep learning, to keep reaching beyond what feels comfortable. And they realized they were no longer defined by the failure that started it all, but by the courage that followed. Looking back, they saw the beauty in what once felt devastating. The failure had not taken their path away. It had revealed the one they were meant to follow. And without that moment of collapse, they might never have discovered the strength, vision, and possibility that shaped the rest of their journey. So what do you think? Are we repeating the same mistake again?